and they have no way of changing the situation, most of them keep to themselves. If a kid sees mom and dad are separated, or they have moved from one place to another, and they have no power to change it. Now, instead of a child, developing mechanisms how to get out of that, to find solutions, because they want to see things being better, but they can't actually do anything about it.
Thank you for joining us here on Anchored 619 once again. We are glad that you are watching. We hope that you have subscribed, you have visited our Facebook page, you've subscribed to our YouTube channel, you've liked, you've shared, and we'd love to hear from you, Lord. So please send in those comments. Let us know if you're loving what we're sharing with you, So yeah, thank you again for joining us. I'm Cordelia, and today we are joined by Ameline. Ameline, did you go to secondary school?
Yes, I did.
Are you sure?
Secondary school.
S1 to S6?
S1 to S6.
How
I
many?
never skipped. I went to all the schools.
How many schools did you go to?
I went to, from primary,
between S1 and S6?
one school.
One school.
I went to one school from S1 to S6.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I'm asking because if you watched our last episodes, the last two episodes, we heard from Amoni. He shared his testimony, and my God, I lost track of the schools that he was going to. There were so many that he went to, and that's why I was asking that question. But we'll come back to that later. Just Simba wakati yao. But we also concluded a series on fatherhood, and we looked at absentee fathers. We looked at how it's been affecting the people that have been sharing their testimony.
Yeah.
And now with Amon's story, he said he had a good relationship with his father. They had a friendship, but something else happened. There was a transition of sorts. There was a move, They had been living in a different country. He's a clergyman, so there was a lot of moving. But now they come back to Uganda, I think, when he's joining S1. And there we are usually about 13, right? So now things start to go strange from there. I think he failed to, there was a ball that was dropped in terms of transition. So on behalf of all the families out there, how do these transitions actually affect our children? How do these transitions, because it may not be just the move. For some it's divorce, for some it's change of status, you were once rich, then something happens and things change. You can no longer go to that posh school, you can no longer go, or the other way around. So how can families deal with that?
First of all, I think that change is a fact of life. There are certain things that you can't actually prevent from happening. If you're supposed to be shifting from one country to another, or sometimes things go bad, and then this divorce happens, and then things go in that direction. But all those things happening, they come and they impact the child. The child is impacted in a certain way, and if a child is not actually attended to, they may actually begin to they may retard in their way of the way they socialize with people. Because let me give an example of divorce. If the children have been used to seeing mommy and daddy, and then there's a separation that is going to take place, the children may not understand why mom and dad are moving, but it will impact them. So the children in regards to moving, changing places, divorce, and all those kinds of things. The what mostly children face is when such things happen and they have no way of changing the situation. Most of them keep to themselves. If a kid sees mom and dad, they're separated, or they have moved from one place to another, and they have no power to change it. Now, instead of a child, developing mechanisms how to get out of that, to find solutions, because they want to see things being better, but they can't actually do anything about it. So what it does, it compresses and compresses the way they think, and then they develop low self-esteem. And when they develop low self-esteem, because they can't ask, they have seen mommy and daddy are fighting, they can't do anything about it. So in their head, they think, if we say anything about it, we may make the situation worse. And so it can impact a child in a way that it breaks their social, the way they socialize with people, because now they begin to keep to themselves, because there are certain situations that they have no power over, and they do not know how to express how they are feeling. And sometimes parents are not really to actually explain to the children what is happening, because everyone is going through their own challenges at that level. The issue with shifting from one place to another, it impacts, when children grow up in a place, they have networks. They have already connected with people, build friendships and things like that. So now when they enter a new environment, to break into that environment and begin establishing networks will actually be a challenge as well. So even the moving physical location may cause a child to keep to themselves for a certain period of time until they get to determine how to actually relate with people, how to really make friends and things like that. Yes.
And then the issue also, like the times when there's a status change. We were once rich, but now not so rich, or we were not so rich, now we are suddenly so rich.
Yes.
Also that usually affects a child, or whether, by the way, are we talking about just children 13 and below, or does this also apply for a person who is like 16 and above?
Actually, a person who is like 16 and above, it is easier because it may take a short time, not less than a year. They can actually snap out of that. Now, the greatest impact is on the children. They cannot talk, they don't know whether they will make things worse or not. So it impacts them, and it impacts the way they relate with people. So, but for a grown up, 16 years, they can quickly understand, and they can also look for help elsewhere. They may not, if the two parties, they see that they can't get help, they can somehow. Now, for the grown-ups, may handle it, make it be easier for them actually to overcome. But now, for the children, it has a very great impact on them, and they develop certain things and patterns and way of relating with people that is usually abnormal for children. Yes.
So do you think it's a good idea for our parents, whether we are old or young, but that whenever there are these transitions that are happening in our families, major transitions that are happening, do you think it's a good idea to talk me through it as a child, or like the usual African style, somehow you catch up or something like that?
Yes. Most of the things that happen to children most parents think that the children are too young, and they assume that the children actually snap out of it. But the child, at a certain level, they understand what is going on, and they're being affected, and they do not know how to deal with things. So the impact can be very deep. Let me say this. It is very important for parents, even if it is in a divorce, to actually sit down with the children. Not like for a child who is, let's say, below like 12 years. For a child who is below like 12 years, there's a way you are supposed to bring it up. Maybe take the child out or in a playing mood, and then maybe you bring it out in a way that maybe we are not going to be staying with daddy, things like that. So you explain to them so that they don't just wake up in the morning, where's daddy? Where is mom? How come daddy is not around, mom is not around? Then the other challenge that comes with that, especially when it comes to divorce, is that the people yelling at each other. Understand? Because some of the things happen. We find this parent and the other parent, but now the child is watching. Understand? So the parents also have to try to be civil in dealing because of the child who is involved. If the parents are not civil and they are seeing mommy and daddy are fighting, they do not know which side to choose, and so it becomes really, really very difficult. So yes, it is very important that when transitions are happening, for parents actually to talk to their children, find a way of talking to them, and then by talking to them, it eases the way actually they deal with things. And then also the parents, when you become civil with the way you deal with each other, those things are not moving on. It becomes very easier for the child to actually, snap out of that is not here, but that comes once in a while to share, and there's no hot arguments and heated things and fighting and things like that. So it can be easier for the child that way. But the other way around, it can be disaster. Yes, because the child does not know what to do, so it traumatizes the child, and the child ends up picking certain things. They end up depending on certain things because children usually depend on their parents' guidance and things like that. So when that is not there, they will look for something else that will actually occupy and help them to release. They will find a way of releasing that kind of pain, and it may be very disastrous.
Yes. Wow. And that reminds me of one of the segments that we actually had here on managing our emotions, managing our feelings, because these things will appeal to the emotions, and if you have not prepared them to manage those emotions, then something drastic can happen, like you said. So moving on to where we started about the schools, the strict, and because Amon went through so many schools, as he struggled with his addiction and things like that. But one of the things he brought out was the issue of some of the schools were strict, some he found liberal. Those he found liberal, he feels, looking back in retrospect, he feels they gave him the ability to make a decision for himself. While the strict ones seem to over control, put the control in their hands, which he feels didn't help him a lot when he looks back. What do you have to say about that? We are looking at this not just in terms of schools, but even in our homes, because in our parenting, in all that, strict versus liberal, which way should we go?
Yes, I think that's a very wonderful question, and I think for most parents, especially grown parents, they struggle between the traditional way and because things are changing, things are growing. You can't, the things that they handled 40 years ago are not the same kind of thing. So it's a constant struggle between should we, because they all have, for parents actually to be liberal, there are lots of fears with that. But again, they also do not know how to deal with a strict situation because now there's a lot of information. You can't just confine a child or a person. So it becomes a bit challenging. Now, when it comes to school, it depends on which kind of school. Let me give an example. If you are talking about a school for like children, let's say below the age of like 7 years, 6 years, I think there, because they really do not understand what to do, how to go about things, I think the strictness can apply in those areas because they are depending on your guidance. They have never done things they do not know, so they have to know a way of doing certain things. If you have a flame and you have a child, and you are saying to the child that you can either choose to just go away from the flame or you can choose to touch it. It means that you have decided to actually let your child get through the consequences of all the bans that they are going to, because they will go by what we see. And so at that level, I think guidance and strictness may be necessary. Now, when a child grows and they begin to understand what is right and what is wrong, it's very important. If you've not instilled the principles, if you've not cultivated how they should go, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually come in at a later stage and begin to actually guide them if you never give them the right foundation. And so when it comes to schools, when you fast forward and go to secondary school, when you come to secondary school, strict and liberal, I think some schools have a strict code because of children coming from different homes. Some of them have never been given a foundation of doing things in the right way. So they don't assume that people know that you're not supposed to trespass, you're not supposed to put on shabili, you're not. So they don't want to assume. They want to actually guide the person. But again, being so strict, what the challenge it brings, it causes a person not to actually think for themselves. You're supposed to go one way, you're not supposed to think. The creativity of the person is actually affected. They cannot decide for themselves. They can't think for themselves at a certain point. If the person is just wrong, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. If you do otherwise, things are going to be tight. And then also strictness, the challenge it can bring hypocrisy. Understand? You can show that actually you are obeying, but yet in actual sense, underground, you have created something else. So when it comes to strictness, I believe that it is supposed to be done at a certain level of growth of the child. So, and that is when the child is at your home, they cannot move, what. But now, when they get released outside there in the world, they will have to make their own choices. And those boundaries that you have set are not going to be there. They will have to make their choices. Now, coming back to the liberals. Now, this is a very, very good thing, but can also be damaging, destructive to the children. If also the children are not shown a sense of boundary, understand? I'll give you an example. For homes that are liberal, obedience comes last. The child first does whatever they want. You don't tell them. They do whatever they want. Then, if whatever they wanted to do has not gone through, maybe they can turn to the other way. So, like you go to like certain schools did not have a sense of like direction or guiding people. They actually left it to be open, thinking they have a school of thought that the other work has been done from home. So when you come to school, you are supposed to know what to do. No one is going to tell you, come to class. No one is going to tell you. They know that now, at that age where you are supposed to do whatever is right. And so that, and some people who have never been given that kind of freedom, when they come into that space, they actually may really go off because they have never seen that kind of thing. And so, for me, to answer that question, you have to have a combination of both liberal and a sense of guidance. Now, you do not limit a child's creativity because by being so strict, they cannot ask questions. Because even if they ask questions, you are telling them this is the only way. Now, you have to have a little bit of both. They have to know they are free to do anything, but there are consequences. If they don't do what is right, they're going to face consequences. And that's how actually even the moral fiber of society is built. It is built on those values. The governments have laws. In those laws, let's say traffic laws, you can drive, speed, whatever, but there's also a sense of guidance. But even within that, there are liberties, or you can express your liberties within the law that has been given. So for me, it is actually both that will help the child to understand that I can do whatever I want. However, also my way may have some negative consequences towards if I don't do what is right.
This reminds me about the Garden of Eden. A lot of people, you find people are asking, but God, where was he when Adam and Eve were sinning? Why didn't he stop them? What do you have to say about that? Why didn't he say like, hold it right there, don't go that direction?
Actually, I think that the best gift that God gave man was the gift of choice. And because God never created man as a robot, when he put him in the garden, he had to make sure that there are avenues of man making choice. That's the reason why he put the tree and told them, don't eat this, don't eat this. It was not that God knew and didn't understand that they may make mistakes. But because he had created a man to think and to make choices by themselves. So he put them in the world. He said, this is what you're supposed to follow. However, I am not holding you from doing whatever you want. And this is actually the best part about liberty. The best part about liberty is you tell the person the consequence of something, but still they will have to make a choice. After explaining, they will have to make a choice. So that means if they make a choice to move a certain direction, it has come from their heart. If they have chosen to follow you, they are not going to follow you because they fear punishment, because they fear resentment, they fear that they're going to be ostracized. No, but they have made this decision with their sane mind to actually move that direction. And God wanted us to move from that place. And you see, the law of Moses told them, you should not, you should not, you should not. And imagine in that era where some of these people were weak and could not meet the standard. That means that they were living in constant fear for the rest of their lives. They were not free to love, free to choose, they lived in constant fear. Now, even if a person did not do things from their heart, they wanted to do it because of the fear of death. And that is what actually Jesus Christ died for, to give us freedom, to know that He has forgiven your sins. He loves you, and He loved you while you were yet a sinner, so that also you can choose. By the way, hell is not was not meant for people, but hell is a choice that a person chooses. You choose actually to go to it. It is not God who takes you to hell. You choose. You choose actually to say, because some people really want some fire. You understand? They want a bit of roast. And in society, those are things. There are guys who are just big-headed. They just love those things. Prisons. There are guys who really want. And God says it is still your choice.
Your choice, yes.
So and that is when it comes to the Garden of Eden and all those things, I could really say that the liberties that are given, that God gave us, they gave us access into our heart to actually do things from the place of love, not from the place of fear.
Amen. And so as we try to close, wrapping that up,
yes.
When you talk about, because we've now looked at choice,
yes.
and choice has consequences.
Yes.
It has results.
Yes.
So there's the issue of enabling. We looked at, from Ammon's story of testimony, one of the things that really, for me, was at the point when he would be expelled, somehow the parents have even already arranged a backup plan. So you literally move him from this school. You're not even going home to first sit and figure out what's going to happen. But you move from this one, there's another one already prepared for you, you know. I feel there's something about choice, and anyway, we'll leave that, but enabling.
Yes.
How does that affect our struggles when we have life controlling problems, when we have addictions and things like that?
Okay. Actually, you would be surprised that addiction, when it comes to being curbed before it grows, the stages that where it flourishes from, it is from a place of enabling. Yes. Because these are the people you stay with. These are the people who are with you. But now, imagine, and I would say this, one of the, like the way you've been explaining, one of the worst things that you could actually express to a child, that you will support them in their method, and you will not let them understand that there are consequences. Now imagine a child goes to a school and knows that even if I mess things up in the school, my parents will back me up and support me and even take me to a better school. So what comes to the mind of the child, I can do anything that I want and I go away with it, and my parents will back me up.
But as a parent, I'm thinking I'm helping in some way. I'm thinking if I don't, you're going to think I'm a bad parent. If I don't bail you out, you're going to think, well, this parent of mine, kweli andesene wangoba, kweli andese no, I'm not going to school, like really. So that's what is running through my mind as a parent. I'm thinking, I'm helping you. I'm showing you I love you. Yeah.
And that is the worst insecurity of the parent. When you have a child, you're not trying to buy their love. You're not trying to win their love. You are trying to actually express your love to them. And love does not rejoice in it, but rejoices in the truth. So the expression of your love and the demonstration of your love to your children should not be that you are actually supporting them in the things that are going to destroy them. Let me give an example. We have you go in homes and you find parents. They get to understand. They get to realize that one of their child, they discover some shifty. They discover some shifty character, behavior of the child. And the child is going out, coming back at weird hours and things like that. Now, the parent has seen that, but they choose to ignore. And they say, they are grown. They are now discovering. And whereas the children have the right to choose, but also God has given you to be stewards over them, to look after them. So you don't have to ignore. And if a parent is insecure to a level of wanting to gain love, from a child, then it means that parent is going to destroy. By loving your child, you're actually destroying them. Yes, by what you call loving your child, you're actually destroying them. And you know what happens when they begin to see those shifty characters and behaviors? Another thing develops in a parent. And this is what develops in a parent. Now, the parent, when they discover that this person is going through addiction and things like that, then they begin to cover up for the child, because it's like, I love so much this child, what. And then even when another person comes and tells the child, it tells the parent, your child is doing this, the parent will say, no, he cannot do that. He cannot do this, he cannot do that. And so the parent lives in denial. But in that state, as they live in denial, they are actually enabling this person as they cover up this person's behavior and negative and drug cycle and all those kinds of things. They are actually enabling this child. They are enabling the child. And so it becomes very difficult for this child to actually get to know that there are systems that they, okay, let me just put it like this. The more the parent supports a habit of the child, the more the child thinks it's the normal way. And also, another thing, there are these occasional parties and things like that. So sometimes some people begin to do the things on those occasional parties, and they have no accountability, they have no one to guide them, and so the more they begin to engage in those things, the more what was supposed to be done within the confines of party, the more it actually becomes a lifestyle. Because some people say, when I'm happy, I take booze or I take drugs when we are happy. When the birthday maybe ends, they don't drink. But now it can actually, get out of occasional things and it becomes, like an everyday thing. And that becomes a very, very big challenge. And this is actually very, very bad. The other thing maybe about that I just thought about is also their parents who also wants to help their children, but because they don't want the habit that the child is actually doing, they resent the person.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, by resenting, you're ignoring. You don't want. We used to have parents who said, "I don't want to talk to you." You understand? Because they know that you've done something that is bad. I don't want to hear anything from you. I don't want you to say anything to me. And so the parent resents the child, but yet in actual sense, you are actually eliminating this person and giving them an opportunity actually to have a full blast in there, because they are stressed, they cannot express it to you. And also the parent is also going through, of course, those challenges. How my child is drunk or drugged, so they resent. And also parents also have this thing of image. You understand? So how are they going to see my child? How will they hear that my child has gone to a rehab? You understand? So instead of helping, you resent the person, and under that distance, you are looking at your image. You are pushing away the person, and then in the end, the person ends up becoming worse. And by the time you wake up after you get help, the person has been caught up in this cycle of addiction.
Wow. There's a statement that was made that the first time you help someone, that's mercy.
Yeah.
But the next time you are bailing someone out, that's enabling. Okay. So sometimes we think that we are helping the people that are struggling, but we're actually harming them. It's a thin line between helping and harming. So if you have someone out there that's struggling with an addiction, with a life controlling problem, confront them with the truth. Confront them, and that's the loving way. Even the Lord in His Word says that He rebukes those He loves. Do you love your loved one enough to tell them the truth? Do you love them enough to tell them the reality? Because I think we'll get into these discussions in another show, but because when you support the denial they are living in, they don't admit that they have a challenge, you're supporting it, you're saying, yeah, you don't have a challenge, let's get you going, but there are consequences for the things that we do, and we need to help our children see that. We need to help our loved ones see that there are consequences, and we have the freedom to choose. But what are you choosing? The Bible says, I've placed before you life and death. Choose life. And I thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hamelin, for joining us today. It's been really, really great. Thank you so much for the insight that you have given us. And we leave it to you, dear friends. Thank you for watching this week and throughout the rest of your life. Choose life. It's been Anchor 619. We hope to see you next week. Ciao.